today, reap tomorrow. Adama got the first position in the entire school with a perfect score in mathematics, English, biology, and chemistry on the third consecutive term.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Before we dive into today's story, I need you to do me a huge favor. If you are new here, hit that subscribe button right now. And if you are already subscribed, make sure that notification bell is turned on, because the story I'm about to tell you is one you will not want to miss. Trust me on this. Today we are talking about silence, not the peaceful kind, not the kind that gives you space to think. I am talking about the kind of silence that becomes a prison, the kind that abusers use as a weapon, the kind that protects predators while destroying their victims. This is the story of a 16-year-old girl named Adama Ibrahim. She was brilliant. She was kind. She had her whole life ahead of her. And then, in one night, someone she was supposed to be safe around took everything from her. Not just her body, her voice, her sense of safety, her ability to trust that the world would protect her. But here is the thing about Adama's story that makes it different from so many others. She did not stay silent forever. And when she finally spoke, when the truth finally came to light, it did not just change her life. It changed an entire community. It changed laws. It gave other girls the courage to speak up when they thought no one would believe them. So before we get into it, I need you to understand something. This story is hard. It is going to make you angry. It might make you cry. But it is also going to show you something powerful. That one person's courage can create ripples that reach further than they ever imagined. Like this video so more people can find it. All right, let us get into it. This is the story of Adama Ibrahim. This is Silence Broken. The brightest star in Kura. Our story begins in a small village in Nigeria called Kura. It is the kind of place where everyone knows everyone, where the school sits beneath an ancient baobab tree that has been standing longer than anyone can remember, where reputation matters more than money, and where a smart child is seen as the pride of the entire community. Adama Ibrahim was that child. She was 16 years old, slender, quiet, with the kind of focus in her eyes that made teachers stop and pay attention. She was not loud. She did not demand the spotlight. But when exam results were posted, her name was always at the top. First in mathematics, first in English, first in sciences, 3 terms in a row. Perfect scores across the board. And here is what made Adama special. It was not natural talent that got her there. It was work. Pure, relentless, disciplined work. While other students were playing football or gossiping under the mango trees, Adama was reading by candlelight. She wrote her assignments on scraps of paper her mother brought home from the market. She asked questions in class not to show off, but because she genuinely wanted to understand everything about the world. Her mother, Haji Amina Ibrahim, was a widow. She sold vegetables in the market and sewed clothes by lamplight to make ends meet. Adama's father had died when she was young, leaving them with almost nothing. But Amina had one belief that she drilled into her daughter from the time she could understand words. Education is the one thing no one can ever take from you. Amina told her daughter, "When they take everything else, Adama, they cannot enter your mind. What you learn, you keep forever." And Adama believed her. She carried those words like armor. So when the school held its assembly that morning in the heat, with students lined up in their pressed white uniforms, and the headmaster standing at the podium with the result sheet in his hands, nobody was surprised when he called Adama's name. Not once, not twice, 3 times. Once for each subject category she had dominated. The applause that followed was genuine. Even the students who were jealous of her clapped, because there is something about excellence that honest people cannot help but respect. But there was one person in that crowd who was not clapping. His name was Obinna Okafor, 17 years old, tall, athletic, good-looking in the way that makes life easier for some people. And he was the headmaster's son. Now here is the thing about Obinna. He was not stupid. That is important to understand. Stupidity would have been simpler. Obinna was smart enough to know exactly how far behind Adama he was academically, and instead of letting that motivate him, instead of using it as fuel to work harder, he let it fester. He let it turn into something dark, because Obinna had grown up being told he was exceptional. His mother spoiled him. His father's position gave him social status. The village knew his name before they knew his character. And now, in his own house, at his own dinner table, his father kept praising this orphan girl who had come from nothing and was outshining him in everything that mattered. That day after the assembly, Obina sat under the mango tree with his two friends, Chima and Easy. Chima was clever in all the wrong ways. Easy just followed whoever seemed strongest. And Obina said something that would set everything in motion. He said, "She has taken my place. My father does not see me anymore. Something has to be done." And Chima, with that calculating look in his eyes, leaned in and said, "Then ruin her reputation. Make people think she is not what she seems. Once your father sees her differently, everything goes back to normal." Obina did not say no. He did not say yes either. He just sat there, letting the idea take root. In that silence, that moment of not rejecting an evil thought, that is where it all started. Subscribe if you haven't already. This story is about to take a dark turn. 3 weeks after that assembly, Adama world fell apart in a different way. Her mother, Hajia Amina, had been sick for months. The village healer had tried. The traveling doctor had tried. But the illness was stronger than both of them. And one night, in a hospital ward that smelled of antiseptic and finality, with Adama holding her hand, Amina took her last breath. Her final words to her daughter were these: "Education is your only weapon. Whatever happens, do not stop. Promise me." And Adama, 16 years old and about to become an orphan, promised. "I promise, Mama. I promise with everything I am." The funeral was held in the rain. Adama stood at the graveside completely alone. No extended family showed up. No relatives stepped forward to take her in. She was, in every practical sense, on her own. That is when the headmaster, Obina father, made a decision. He was a decent man, not perfect, but decent in the way that people are decent when it does not cost them anything. He saw this brilliant student, this girl his late colleague Amina had raised to be exceptional, standing in the rain with nowhere to go. And he did what he thought was the right thing. He told Adama, "You will come and stay in my house. You are like a daughter to me. There is a room. There is food. You are welcome here." His wife agreed. She was a kind woman who believed in helping people. So Adama moved into the Okafor household. She was grateful. She helped with chores. She kept her head down. She studied every night by lamplight, trying to keep the promise she had made to her mother. But Obina watched her from across the dinner table with something cold growing in his chest. Resentment, jealousy, and now something worse. Because here she was, living in his house, sitting at his table. And his father kept calling her brilliant, kept holding her up as an example. The plan that Chima had suggested weeks earlier started to take a more concrete shape in Obina's mind. He did not want to just ruin her reputation anymore. He wanted to break her. Completely. Permanently. Now, before I continue, I need to pause here and tell you something. What happens next is going to be hard to hear. I am not going to describe it in graphic detail because that is not what this story is about. This story is about what happens after, about silence and courage and justice. But I need you to understand what Adama was up against, what millions of girls around the world are up against every single day. Share this video. It might save a life. There was a path in Kura that ran from the school to the old marketplace, cutting through farmland. Adama walked it every Wednesday evening to deliver vegetables to an elderly woman who had been kind to her mother. It was peaceful. Birds sang in the grass. Fireflies came out at dusk. It should have been safe. On a Wednesday evening, 2 months after Adama moved into the Okafor house, Obina and his two friends waited for her on that path. They attacked her. I will not go into the details, but they took from her what no person ever has the right to take from another. And when it was over, Obina knelt beside her in the dirt and said the words that would keep her silent for months. "If you tell anyone, my mother will throw you out. You have nowhere to go. No one will believe a girl like you over a son like me. You are nothing without us." And then he left, just walked away, left her there on that path under a sky that had not stopped being beautiful, as if the universe did not care that something terrible had just happened. Adama went back to the house that night. She washed herself in the stream behind the compound. She hid her torn uniform under her mat, and she said nothing. Because she believed him. She believed that speaking would cost her the only roof she had left. She believed that silence was the only option she had. And here is the heartbreaking part. She was not entirely wrong to believe that, because that is how these situations work. Abusers do not just take your body, they take your voice. They make you complicit in your own silence by making you believe that speaking up will destroy you. The weeks that followed were devastating. Adama stopped raising her hand in class. She stopped reading. She moved through the world like a shadow. The headmaster wife noticed she was not eating. She asked if Adama was okay. Adama said she was just grieving her mother. And the wife believed her, because grief was easier to understand than the truth. 2 months later, Adama's body told the truth that her mouth could not. She was pregnant. The headmaster wife took her to the village healer, a woman named Neka. And Neka, who had delivered half the babies in Kura and kept more secrets than the earth itself, examined Adama and then looked the headmaster wife in the eye and said plainly, "She is with child, about 8 weeks." The wife was devastated. She demanded to know who had done this. She begged Adama to tell her the truth. She promised she would not be angry. She promised Adama would not be thrown out. But Adama looked at the floor, thought about Obina's threat, thought about the roof over her head, and said 2 words that broke everyone's heart. "I do not know." It was a lie, but it was the only lie that felt like survival. Now here is where the story takes its first turn toward hope, and it comes from the most unexpected place. There was a farmer in Kura named Musa. He was 61 years old, weathered by decades of working the land, with hands like tree roots and a quiet dignity that came from a life lived honestly. He owned a small plot of land near the path where Adama had been attacked. On that Wednesday evening, Musa had been resting under his mango tree. He was tired. It was hot. And he had his old phone propped up against a stone, recording a video of his newly planted yam seedlings to send to his grandson in the city. He heard sounds from the path, voices, a struggle. But he was old, and the world had taught him not to involve himself in matters that did not concern him. So he did not go look. He just sat there, resting. But here is the thing. The phone had been pointing toward the path. And phones, unlike people, do not look away. 3 weeks later, Musa picked up his phone to watch the video of his yams. And there, in the shaky footage, in the background of what should have been a simple gardening video, he saw everything. Obina, his 2 friends, the girl, the attack, all of it. Musa sat with that video for 3 days. He prayed. He wrestled with himself. Because who was he? Just an old farmer. And who was on that video? The headmaster's son. Would anyone even believe him? Would anyone care what an old farmer had to say? But Musa had known Adama's mother, Haji Amina. He had attended her funeral. He had watched this brilliant girl become a shell of herself over the past months. And he made a decision that would change everything. He found Adama sitting by the village well one afternoon, drawing water in silence, moving like someone carrying a weight too heavy to name. He sat down nearby, not too close, respectful of her space, and he said, "Daughter of Amina, I need to speak with you. I saw what happened, on the path. 2 months ago, my phone was recording. I have proof." Adama went completely still, every muscle tensed. She looked at this old man she barely knew, and for the first time in months, something flickered in her eyes. Not relief, not yet, but the first fragile thread of possibility. She told him what Obina had said, that no one would believe her, that she would be thrown out, that she was nothing. And Musa, this quiet farmer who had spent his whole life tending the land and minding his own business, looked her straight in the eye and said 4 words that changed everything. "I believe you." He showed her the video. Her hands shook as she watched it. When it was over, she looked at him with tears streaming down her face and asked, "What do I do?" And Musa said, "You come with me. We go to the elders, we go to the law, and we tell the truth." For the first time in months, Adama felt something she had forgotten existed. Hope. Together, Farmer Musa and Adama went to the Council of Elders. In Kura, serious matters were brought before 7 respected elders who had earned their positions through decades of wisdom and fairness. Musa told them what he had seen. He showed them the video. It was shaky. The lighting was not great, but the faces were clear. The sequence of events was unmistakable. The oldest elder, a woman named Obioma, who had been settling village disputes for 40 years, watched the video twice. Then she said something that restored Adama faith in humanity. This is not a village matter anymore. This is a matter for the law. The boy must answer for what he has done. The headmaster was summoned. He arrived confused, frightened. When he saw the video, his face turned to stone. You could see the exact moment his world collapsed. His wife wept. But to their credit, neither of them tried to protect their son. They were devastated, but they were not in denial. Obinna was brought before the council. He denied it at first, called Adama a liar, said the video was fake, but the elders had seen too many liars in their long lives. They knew the shape of truth when it stood before them. The decision was made. Obinna would face trial in the city. This was beyond the village now. 2 days later, Adama and Farmer Musa traveled to the city, 2 hours by truck over rough roads. Adama had never been to the city. It was loud, crowded, overwhelming, but Musa stayed by her side. They met with a magistrate named Chidinma. She was in her 40s, sharp-eyed, with 20 years of legal experience and zero tolerance for injustice. She listened to Adama's story without interrupting. She watched the video 3 times. Then she looked Adama in the eye and said, "This is strong evidence. The boy will be tried, and you, child, will be protected. You are not alone anymore." The trial was set for 3 weeks later. In the meantime, Adama stayed at a shelter for survivors of sexual assault, a place run by women who understood exactly what she had been through. For the first time in months, Adama slept through the night, because she was safe, because people believed her, because justice, imperfect and slow as it is, was finally within reach. Like if you believe in justice, the day of the trial arrived. The courtroom was packed. People from Kura had traveled to witness it. The headmaster sat in the front row, his face a mask of grief. His wife sat beside him, praying quietly. Adama took the witness stand. She wore a simple blue dress the shelter had given her. Her hands were folded in her lap, and when the prosecutor asked her to tell her story, she spoke quietly but clearly. She said, "I stayed silent because I was afraid. He told me no one would believe me. He told me I had nowhere to go. And I believed him, because I had been made to feel small for so long that I forgot I was still allowed to be believed." The defense lawyer tried everything. He asked why she had waited. He suggested she was lying for attention. He implied she had somehow invited what happened to her. All the classic tactics abusers use to discredit their victims. But then Farmer Musa took the stand. This quiet, unassuming man who could have looked away but chose to see. He described what was on the video. He explained how he had recorded it accidentally. He answered every question with the patience of someone who has spent 60 years being patient and has no reason to lie. The video was played for the court, and when it ended, the room was silent. The magistrate, Chidinma, took 2 days to review everything. Then she returned to the bench and delivered her verdict. She said, "The evidence is clear. The testimony is credible and corroborated. This court finds the accused guilty on all charges. Obinna Okafor, you are sentenced to 21 years imprisonment." The gavel came down, and in that moment, something shifted in the universe. Justice, imperfect, slow, painful justice, had been served. After the verdict, the headmaster wife did something remarkable. She walked across the courtroom floor and knelt before Adama, right there, in front of everyone, and she said, "Forgive me. I should have seen. I should have known. I failed you." Adama looked at this woman for a long moment. Then she said, "I forgive you, but make it right. Not just for me, for the next girl, for all the girls who come after." The wife nodded through her tears. That instruction would become her life mission. 3 months after the trial, Adama gave birth to a son. She named him Musa, after the farmer who had believed her when no one else did. Now here is where Adama's story becomes legendary, because a lot of people, after going through what she went through, would have given up, would have let the trauma define them, would have stopped trying. Adama did the opposite. She remembered the promise she had made to her mother. Education is your only weapon. Do not stop. She finished her secondary school exams with the highest score in the region, sitting the papers with a 3-month-old strapped to her back. She won a scholarship to university. She studied law, not for revenge, but because she had sat in a courtroom and watched justice work, and she wanted to be part of that system. She wanted to be the person who helps girls like her. She was the only student in her law school class with a child. She worked night shifts at a pharmacy to pay for childcare. She studied at 3 in the morning because that is when little Musa slept longest. Her classmates whispered, some with pity, some with admiration, some with judgment. Adama did not care. She graduated with first-class honors. She became a barrister specializing in human rights law and gender-based violence. And she did not go work for some big corporate firm in the capital. She opened a small office near Kura. She took cases other lawyers would not touch. Girls who had been assaulted, women who had been abandoned, children who had no voice. She did not charge much. Sometimes she charged nothing, because she remembered what it felt like to have no one. 10 years after her own trial, Adama returned to Kura to speak at the school beneath the baobab tree, the same school where she had once been the brightest student. She stood before a new generation of children and told them her story. She said, I was told I was nothing. I was told no one would believe me. I was told to stay silent. But silence is not safety. Silence is a cage. And I am here to tell you, you have the right to break it. One girl in the back row raised her hand. Her name was Blessing. She was 14. And after the assembly, she came to Adama and said, my uncle, he told me no one would believe me, that it was my fault. But you said I have a voice. Adama took that girl to her mother. She helped them file a report. She represented Blessing in court. The uncle was convicted. And Blessing, like Adama before her, learned that speaking is hard, but silence is harder. That was the first girl. There were hundreds more. Girls who heard Adama's story and thought, if she can, maybe I can too. Because of Adama work, laws changed in the region. Survivors of assault got more protections. Video evidence became admissible in more cases. Schools were required to teach consent. It was not fast. It was not perfect. But it was movement. And movement is everything. Today, barrister Adama Ibrahim is in her 30s. Her son Musa, named after the farmer who saved her, is studying medicine. He wants to work in villages like Kura, treating people who cannot afford city hospitals. He carries his mother lesson with him, that the most important work is work done for people who cannot pay you back. Farmer Musa lived to be 83. Adama visited him every week in his final years. She thanked him over and over for what he had done. And he always said the same thing. I did what anyone should have done. But that is the point, is not it? He did what anyone should have done. But he was the only one who actually did it. That is what makes him a hero. Obinna served his full 21-year sentence. He was released an old man, broken by what he had done and what it cost him. He wrote Adama a letter once. She never opened it, not because she is cruel, but because her forgiveness is not something he is entitled to. Some debts cannot be repaid. Some wounds do not require closure. They just require that you stop bleeding and keep walking. And Adama? She kept walking every single day, one case at a time. One girl helped, one silence broken. So why did I tell you this story today? Because right now, as you are watching this video, there are millions of Adamas in the world. Girls and boys and women and men who have been hurt by someone they should have been safe around, who have been told that speaking up will destroy them, who carry their silence like a weight they can never put down. And there are also millions of potential farmer Musas, people who see something, who know something, who have evidence or testimony or just a gut feeling that something is wrong, and they have to make a choice. Do I get involved? Do I speak up? Do I believe this person when they are finally brave enough to talk?